Morning, Enda.
Morning, Emma.
Banks and bonuses have been in the headlines again. Do you think enough has been done, or do you think what's going on is fair?
Well, it's a complete mess. The government set up a committee to look at the remuneration of senior bankers and people in lending institutions. And those recommendations were breached by bankers. Now, the Bank of Ireland wanted their insider, and they got him. That's Mr. Boucher. The AIB appointed an insider, and you've had a situation where the Irish Nationwide Building Society paid excessive amounts to their former chief executive, Mr. Fingleton, and Anglo-Irish Bank have increased rates of payment for some members of their staff. The problem is that people don't seem to understand at higher levels the gulf of anger that there is among the people when hundreds of thousands of people are either unemployed, struggling to meet mortgages and keep their families going, and they see a small elite walking away with very high remuneration and bonuses, as in the case of Mr. Boucher, who has now agreed not to accept the pension top-up of 1.5 million. So in the Dáil this week we raised the question at Leaders' Questions about what the government were doing in regard to the Irish Nationwide Building Society and the taking back of the 1 million bonus paid to Mr. Fingleton, and the amounts in excess of what the government's own committee recommended should be paid to him for the 4 months that he was there before he retired. And I'm not sure what they've done about that. But clearly there's a moral imperative upon government to do this. The Minister for Finance in the Taoiseach denied that they could do anything about the Bank of Ireland case, and yet public pressure has brought that about. You see, people in this country want to play their part, and they are prepared to play their part if the system is fair. And it's not fair when they see a small number of people walking away with very high remuneration levels, like €1 million in your back pocket walking out the door, which in some cases was clearly for gross incompetence. You should not reward that. So Fine Gael will raise this again, and I will raise it next week in the Dáil if that's necessary.
It's sickening for all those people around the country who are unemployed and having to emigrate. You've met a lot of those over the last few weeks.
Yes, Emma, they're coming into me and every other politician. People who are now really on the line. The jobs have been lost, salaries have been cut. They're having real difficulties in meeting mortgages, and many of them are not going to be able to repay them. And these people did not cause this problem. And essentially what's happened here is that the government, Fianna Fáil and the Greens, have taken the big debts that were run up and the loans involved with Anglo-Irish Bank, which was run by Sean Fitzpatrick and his people at the time. And they have transferred those debts onto the backs of the taxpayer. And we were told originally that the amount would be something of the order of 4 billion. It's now at over 20 billion, 20,000 million, and rising. It's out of control. And our view long ago was that Anglo-Irish Bank should be broken up and the bad end of it wound down over an orderly period. And I'm glad to see at long last that some Fianna Fáil people are now coming around to that view as well.
Now, over the next few weeks, public sector workers will be voting on the Croke Park pay agreement. What's Fine Gael's position on this agreement?
Well, this agreement has been brokered by the chairman of the Labour Relations Commission, Kieran Mulvey, between the government and the trades unions. And Kieran Mulvey made a very strong case during the week about the excessive amount paid to the chief executive of the Bank of Ireland, and that this was going to create great difficulties for people in the public sector to decide to accept pain in this deal when they see others not having to do that. But as the deal goes beyond the next general election, I thought it only appropriate that we should comment on this. There are some good things in this deal. And obviously it's a decision at the end of the day for the public sector workers. I'd like to say in the beginning that I want to see a public service that operates effectively, where people are rewarded for their initiative and their endeavours, and where they know that they make a contribution to our country. Because public services are very important for the private sector and for every single person. You cannot manage without your Gardaí, without your nurses, without your teachers, without your systems that have to work. And it's important that you have that, particularly for the less well-off people who cannot afford to buy private services, if you like. So I support the pay element of the deal put on the table by Kieran Mulvey between the government and the trades unions. And I commit to honouring that pay element of the deal in government. Fine Gael, as you know, wanted a situation where you could exempt the first 30,000 of every public sector worker. In other words, that there would be no cut for the first 30,000 and that it would only apply in proportion after that. But as the deal goes beyond the date of the next general election, it's only right and proper that I should say that Fine Gael have a view that we want a public sector structure that rewards that initiative, that doesn't strangle endeavour and yet provides the best level of service for our people. And in that regard, Fine Gael's view for our Fair Care programme, which is the introduction of universal health insurance into Ireland, and for our programme for creating 100,000 jobs with what we call the Economic Recovery Authority. Both of those, along with our programme for political reform, are three central elements that I intend to seek a mandate from the people from whenever the general election occurs. And I just thought it was appropriate that I should say that.
And you're even more prepared than ever after last night's convention in Waterford, is that right?
Yes, we had two conventions actually on the one night in Waterford. The first was for the by-election, which has happened because of the retirement of former Minister Martin Cullen, and I wish Martin the best in his efforts to make a full recovery. He's got a chronic back problem, and I know that can be excruciatingly sore. So the convention was held in Lawler's Hotel in Dungarvan. For the by-election, there was no opposition to Senator Paddy Coffey, outstanding candidate, strong man in his own right, full-time office running in Waterford City, will be an outstanding candidate to win the by-election, which we expect to do. And Fine Gael will move the writ at an appropriate time in the Dáil to give the members an opportunity to vote on this. We followed that immediately with the convention for the general election. And here there were two candidates, unopposed. Deputy John Deasy from Dungarvan, West Waterford, outstandingly commanding TD in his constituency and committed to winning the second seat. And the second candidate, of course, is Senator Paddy Coffey. So that's an exceptionally strong team. And I'm looking forward to a real commitment from the Waterford constituency and the Waterford people to Fine Gael winning back its second seat in Waterford, which we haven't had for a number of years. But this is a formidable team, and they're going to follow a clear strategic plan, and all committed. Well, you'll have some rivalry, of course, between the different candidates, but they're committed to winning the two seats, and I support that very strongly, and we'll give them every help we can.
Now, finally, you've moved your Twitter account to a new username, is that right? You've been twittering away.
I have. I've started this. I have to admit now, I'm not the best at this. I'm learning. But it is something that I know that my children tell me reaches out to so many people, and they like to know where you are and comments on this, that and the other. So I've gone back to school in terms of technology, and between Twitters and Facebooks and websites and blogs and all the rest of it, I'm beginning to learn the lingo. But in a more important sense, it is a way really of reaching out to so many new people about the messages that we want to send out and about what we're at in politics. And what we're at in politics is to change the way we do our politics, build a better country, provide opportunities for our young people to live and work in Ireland if that's what they want to do, sort out our public finances. None of these things are going to be easy. But I want to give you this commitment, as I've said so many times. When Fine Gael are in government, the decisions that we make, we will lead by example, and fairness will be right throughout the system. You will not have a situation where the people are so angry these days, where they're being screwed, as it were, economically, and where a small number are seen to walk away with government backing and approval for huge amounts of money. We'll put an end to that.
And they can follow you at Enda Kenny TD, isn't that right?
And I hope they do in their thousands, because I have a lot to say to them. When I learn the lingo, I hope to be in regular contact with people, and more importantly, not just for me to say my bits and pieces, but to get their views and to hear what they have to say, because politics is not just about talking from a politician's point of view. In many more important ways, it's about listening to the anxieties and the concerns of people and what it is that they have to say, and I respect every person's view in that regard.